How's it going, everybody? Johnny Styles here alongside my good friend David Baye for this first ever pilot episode of the one and only show, the show that gives you that feeling of breaking the fourth wall. This is Inside Out. So David Baye is on the line. David, what the heck are we doing?
What's going on, man? No, I tell you what, we've been talking about doing this for a while now, and obviously, everybody knows your background with RX Muscle, quite extensive. I have a long background with muscular development, covering shows, doing media stuff, managing the online side, and we just wanted to kind of come back together. Both of us were kind of free agents, so bring our talents together and have a little bit of fun with the show. There's a lot of guys doing some really cool podcasts out there these days talking about nutrition and the lifestyle and supplementation and all sorts of that stuff. But neither of us really felt like there was just a really good show just covering the sport of bodybuilding. We talk so much about all the components that go into competition prep and things like that it seems like the actual sport, who's winning what shows, who's getting ready for what shows, that sort of stuff has gotten pushed by the wayside a little bit. And again, I love some of the stuff that guys are doing, but we wanted to come back, have a little bit of fun, talk about the actual sport of bodybuilding, and here we are. So I'm just going to make something very clear from the get-go, just because I know this is going to come up. I know it's going to come up. The bromance with Bob Ciccarillo and I is still going strong. As a lot of you guys know, Bob's business ventures
absolutely.
Bob's busier than ever. Him and I still chat on the phone a few times a week, like a couple little girls. So I know as soon as we drop this first episode, people are going to be like, me and Bob are on bad terms, but it's not the case. So in fact, I know you were just out in New York talking to Bob about the show, and he was pretty excited. But in any regard, here we are, episode 1, Inside Out, David Baye and Johnny Styles.
Yes, and for people that follow me on the Spanish side, I've been talking about this for a while. I think in reality, people need an outlet. I think the industry deserves an outlet that's beyond what people need. I mean, I've always say it like no non-filter, and in Spanish I go like, it's really hard for me to sit down with a phone and interview somebody. I'm not taking sides here. I'm not jabbing at anybody personally, but to me personally, it just feels very not cool. I mean, I would like to have something to watch while I'm doing cardio. I would like to have something, hearing for podcasts as well. And I've been toying with the idea, testing new equipment here and there, and just trying to get a feel of new stuff, because every week, every day, this new technology comes up. And you got to remember, I was the one who brought in this whole live or videos to the industry. Back in the day, that was not existent. Back in the day, there was just videos that you did and videos that took forever to edit, and nowadays with just one punch of a button you can go live from anywhere in the world. It's amazing. And then you got to have the right person to like go back and forth with, because either you agree or disagree. So we talked about this forever, and we're trying to this is just another outlet for people to watch and for people to enter. This is just another outlet for content and for quality content to go out there, right?
Absolutely. And the one thing you touched base on a little bit is we just want to bring some production value too. We know setting up these interview shows and some of the Skype shows that people are doing in the podcast, we get it. It's not that easy to always make these things look the best, which is another big reason why I wanted to team up with Johnny. Is I know he has the experience in all the producer side from RX Muscle, and I've seen his talents firsthand. And despite all the beef that always went back and forth between RX and MD, Johnny and I were always super cool at the show. So this was just a natural fit for putting a cool show together. Again, Johnny talked about something that people can watch when they're doing cardio just to kill time or doing whatever. Or if you want to put it, we'll get it on podcasts. You guys can just listen to it if you can't pull up YouTube and watch the video. But again, just want to have some fun, cover the sport of bodybuilding. We're not going to get too much into nutrition or prep or or supplements or any of that stuff, I mean, it'll probably come up in shows, and not something we're going to shy away from. But that's not going to be the focus of the show. We just want to, we just want to talk bodybuilding. We want to have a little bit of fun. As you guys can see, Johnny and I, our 80s style is going to be very forthcoming in our videos and our graphics and stuff like that. And we're just, we're going to have a good time with it, and we're going to. I don't know. We're gonna bring some fun into bodybuilding, and we figure this was a great time to start it, coming off of the New York Pro, one of the biggest shows of the year. And if we're talking about fun, and Johnny, we discussed this, the New York Pro had a really cool feel to it, and that it was the first time in a while that we've seen some guys actually talk some trash leading into the show. Now, if you guys know Nathan and Justin and Juan, for the most part, it was all in good fun, but it was really exciting to see a couple of the competitors bring a little drama to their prep and really build some anticipation for the show.
Yeah, I agree by far. Nathan, I actually encouraged him to
Nathan's
build it up
a
because
hoot.
I know Justin Rodriguez from New York, and he's always from day one. He was good with the idea of, what if somebody talks trash to me? I'm not gonna stay quiet, and I like that because for the first time
Absolutely.
ever, I've been attending the New York Pro 6 times, and for the first time ever, this actually felt like it had something behind it, which we know it's not. But at the end, there was fans there that actually traveled for this show just to see some type of animosity, and it paid off.
Yeah, and we see it in other sports too. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind when I think about trash talking leading up to an event is UFC. And at the end of every fight, we always see the same thing. These guys hugging and shaking hands and, I respect you as a fighter. But leading into the show, that's never the case. And from a promotional standpoint and a marketing standpoint and just getting people excited about the fight, that's not what anybody wants to see. And in the sport of bodybuilding, a lot of these guys have a ton of respect for each other. And so when you ask guys, how's it going to go? Or do you think you can beat this person or that person? And we've both done all these interviews, and everybody says the same thing. Well, I'm gonna bring my best package, and I'm gonna be 5 pounds heavier and 3 pounds leaner, and gonna try to do some damage, and and it's like, and I get where the guys are coming from, and I totally respect that. But on the same token, it's nice to see guys call each other out once in a while. Again, we know there's respect there. We know it's all in good fun. But again, it was a fun show, and so I say we get into it. This weekend show.
So the New York Pro was this weekend, and we had Nathan, we had Juan, we had John De La Rosa, we had Justin, we had Milan Sarek that actually won this show last year in the 212s, and he came up. I was there, and the crowd was into it. There were a lot of wrestling chants too. I can't mention them on the air right now, but it's New York, and the New York crowd is amazing. I want to get your thoughts on this real quick. First call out, real quick.
Yeah,
we have Juan Morel. We have.
Yeah, so we had the first call out. We had Nathan, we had Juan, we had Josh Wade, we had Milan Sadiq, we had John De La Rosa, and we had Justin Rodriguez. Now, as you guys see in this picture, Nathan started a little bit towards the outside. That switched really quick. And, I wasn't there, but I've been scanning pictures since Saturday night. Talked to a lot of people who were there. And for the most part, I think everybody thought Nathan walking away with the win was a pretty fair decision. But it was close. It was a close show. I felt like Juan brought a really good package. You can see by these pictures coming up. Juan's still a little bit slight in the quad area, but that's not something that he's not working on. So I think in a lot of these shots that we see from the front, Nathan edges Juan a little bit there. Everybody knows Nathan's been training with Matt Jansen, and their kind of philosophy for getting ready this show was going back to some real just old school heavy lifting. And you can tell that Nathan's put on some quality mass. I was also really impressed with Justin Rodriguez. And when I saw him at the Arnold Classic earlier on in the year, he was just a guy that really popped out. Good lines, a lot of muscle. He poses well. And he's definitely one of these newer competitors that can really make an impact in the IFBB in the coming years. Now, we saw him on the outside. After they went through a few comparisons, we saw Justin start making his way into the middle. Now, during this first call out, we saw Juan and Nathan. We saw those two predominantly in the middle the whole time. They sent those guys back a little bit later, but it was a tough first call out, and to see Nathan and Juan battle at it, you can see in some of these side shots, that was a big talk. In the side shots, people were talking about Juan's hamstring hang, a little bit more detail in the side shots in the thighs for Juan than we saw with Nathan. But Nathan, again, really good upper body thickness. And the training that he's been doing and the weight that he's been moving, it shows in some of that mass. So, it was, again, it was a close competition. When Nathan and Juan hit their side chest shot, that was a really strong pose for Juan. I know a lot of people were posting that side chest with Juan where his hamstring is just hanging there. And it looks like one of the shots he won very clearly. But, and you can see in this picture, Nathan might have him a little bit in thickness in the arms, but this is a great shot for Juan. And we've been discussing this for years. Juan has a unique physique in that from the front, his quads are a little bit slight. They don't quite match his upper body, but when Juan turns to the side and he turns to the back, you do not see any shortcomings in his legs at all. So definitely a fair and a well-earned second place finish for Juan. We've seen Juan win before. He won a few years ago. He's been in the top 5 just about every time he's been there, runner-up a few times. So, not the finish that Juan wanted, but a second place finish at a show like New York, that's a strong finish for Juan. I think it was a good finish for Justin Rodriguez. And we had Josh Wade move his, move all the way up to the 4th spot. Now, Josh, not the most aesthetic guy and not the biggest guy, but once again, he brought it, and he proved that the judges are definitely still keeping an eye on conditioning. And, when we talk about conditioning at that show, there was a couple of big names that came in that had the potential to do really well that fell pretty far short of nailing their conditioning. And when that happens, you'll get guys like Josh Wade, who might not be the biggest or the most aesthetic, that are going to move up and sneak into those top 5 spots.
I'll tell you the talk of the town, because this is what we were hearing in New York after prejudging. Because one was very hard, especially from the back and from the side shots, like very like Dexter type of like hardness. But then you had Nathan with the most craziest quad sweeps in the world. I mean, in this show. In your opinion, do you think the actual quads were the defining factor? Because we haven't taken into account yet, this is just prejudging. At night, Nathan came in way different. It's another different Nathan DeAsha at night. In your opinion, do you think it's just a lower body type of situation here?
I think for the most part, Juan and Nathan were pretty equal. Now, we have a couple shots we can bring up of their back comparisons and also of those guys hitting the most muscular. And, when you see those shots of them in, their back lat spread, their back double bicep, and also in their most muscular, they're close. I think it was close in the back lat spread, but when we're looking at these pictures, I think the shape advantage has got to go to Nathan. A little bit more density there than you see next to John, and a little bit better V-taper than Josh Wade is displaying. But when they turn around and they hit a most muscular shot, that's when you really see the defining difference. And that is, as you had said, it's going to be Nathan's quads. Look, Juan's a big dude. Juan's got a big upper body, a huge chest, big arms. For as much mass as Juan's carrying, he's still got a relatively small waist. And at a show like New York, where you have some of the top competitors in the world, minus a few guys that we're going to see at the Arnold and the Olympia, every detail counts, and Nathan edged him out, and I'm gonna say it pretty much came down to quads. I think it wasn't the sharpest version of Nathan that we've ever seen. I think it was probably one of the best wands I've ever seen. And Nathan knows he was just a hair off. Look, Nathan looked really good, and he's huge. And if you see some videos of him training, the mass that he's carrying is just become kind of mind-numbing. But Nathan decided to jump into California last minute. He wants another shot at getting on stage, and we'll talk about the upcoming Cal Pro in a little bit. But I thought it was a fair win for Nathan. Going down the line a bit, we had Josh Wade in 4th place, De La Rosa in 5th place. Now, they got rid of a few of the top guys, and the second call out at this show was really interesting, and the top 10 in and of itself was really interesting. So going down the line, we had this Rafael Brandao finished in 6th place. Now, he made the second call out and started on the outside, started working his way in. Not a name that a lot of people really recognize going into the show, and he's got some work to do yet in the mass department, but this Rafael guy can step it up, and I think he can do pretty well if, with some minor improvements here and there. We saw Milan Sadiq and the second call out. But the interesting three who happened to fall to 8th, 9th, and 10th place in that second call out, and I think we have a few shots of that, were Lionel Bayeki, Max Charles, and Akeem Williams. Now, all three of these guys, all three of them, ton of potential, and I shouldn't even say potential because we've seen them do well at other shows before. We catch ourselves saying the same thing about Lionel for just about every show. We know he's going to come in soft, probably a little out of shape from the front, a lot out of shape in his back shots, and that was the case for Lionel. For somebody, and Lionel looked like he was downsized a little bit actually from when we saw him at the Arnold, but for somebody with as much mass and as good a shape as Lionel Bayeki to be dropping outside of the top 5 at almost any show it's disheartening and it's disappointing. And he's one of these guys where year in and year out we're like, if he could really get it together, it would be great. Kind of the same went with Akeem Williams. Here we see Akeem in his back shot. Now Akeem from the front, conditioning looks pretty good. Even in his side shots, his conditioning looks pretty good. And when Akeem turns around, his upper back just doesn't have anywhere near the same detail as the rest of his body. And we've seen this a couple times with Akeem. He's definitely been better before. When we saw him in that runner-up spot in Tampa a few years ago, or battling the top 2 with Puerto Rican
Alexis
guy.
Rolon from Puerto Rico.
Alexis Rivera Rolon, yeah. And so we've seen Akeem get better, and we've seen his upper back get a little bit tighter, but it's definitely still a case where his upper back just isn't as lean as the rest of them. And we've seen this before with a ton of competitors. Look, everybody, when you diet, you have different body parts that lean out at different rates. And in the case of Akeem just needs to keep his entire body covered up and only judge his competition prep by how his upper back looks. Forget your quads, forget your chest, forget your obnoxiously huge arms. Only judge your competition prep by how your upper back looks. And if Akeem can get to the point where his upper back is really dialed in and really shredded and dry, the rest of him is going to look insane. And he's also at a point where, Akeem can stand to lose. If he comes in with 10 pounds less muscle and sacrifices a little bit of that for conditioning, he's definitely going to be able to do that. So that's your top 10. Again, Nathan winning, Juan in 2nd, Justin Rodriguez working his way up to 3rd, Josh Wade, a little bit of a dark horse in a show this big, getting 4th, John De La Rosa in 5th. John's got to find a way to get back to the detail that we know he's capable of bringing. He's big. He's got good symmetry, a lot of muscle. We just waiting for John to nail that conditioning again. Rafael in 6th, Milan in 7th, Lionel in 8th, Max Charles in 9th, and Akeem Williams in 10th. We had some other big names in the show that didn't quite place as high as they had wanted to. I'm not going to really get into that too much because we got some other divisions to cover. But I would like to touch on something about Nathan DeAsha and something I've been seeing all over online, on the forums, on social media, all over the place, Facebook, Instagram, and that is this comparison of Nathan from last year's Olympia to this year's New York Pro, hitting a front double bicep, and all the criticisms about how much worse he is. Now, here's the thing, guys. When you're going to compare two shots, you got to compare apples to apples. And when we're looking at this shot, what we're going to see is we're going to see Nathan from the Olympia last year, tiny waist, right? And then on the other side, you have from this year's New York Pro, and oh my God, he's added mass, but his waist is widened out. He's hitting the shot completely differently. Okay, in the Olympia shot, what he's doing is he's sucking in his stomach, he's lifting up his chest, he's blowing his air out. In the other picture from the New York Pro, he's sitting down, he's flexing his abs. And you can tell, if you just look at the shape of his abs, you can see they're different in the right and left. In the picture from the Olympia, you can see his collarbone is tucked up a little bit higher under his chin, as where you can see more of his neck in the picture from the New York Pro. He's hitting it completely different. So for all the criticism about how much wider Nathan's waist is, how about, if you're going to post comparison pictures, you find a comparison picture where somebody is hitting the shot in the same fashion in the before and after. And there you have it. The picture that nobody was showing, and that is Nathan DeAsha from this year's New York Pro hitting the front double bicep in the same before, quote unquote, before picture that everybody's posting from last year's Olympia. So am I going to sit here and say that with all the mass Nathan's added, that his waist might not be a little bit wider? No, absolutely not. I'm not going to BS you guys like that. And to be honest with you, I haven't taken a tape measure to Nathan's waist, although knowing Nathan, he might let me. But anyway, guys, look, if you're going to sit there and post comparison pictures on Facebook and Instagram and on the forums, at least get a fair comparison, because posting Nathan sucking his stomach in and hitting his front double bicep versus squeezing down and hitting the front double bicep and trying to say, oh my God, his obliques are so much bigger, it's garbage. So that's my 2 cents on everybody posting that stupid comparison picture. One more time, Johnny, give him the picture of Nathan hitting it from the New York Pro in the same fashion that everybody's comparing him hitting it to the Olympia, and you guys will see his waist is just fine. So there we have it. But
yeah, I agree. At least in this show, we're gonna call it like it is, because sometimes we see all these crazy comparisons, and you and I have been grateful enough to, we've been blessed, I guess, to travel the world and, see the shows with our own eyes, and myself with the camera. There's all sorts of lighting. There's all sorts of things that happen on stage. Of course, you've heard it a million times. The Olympia stage, the Arnold stage. There's different stages. These pictures are thanks to the one and only NPC News Online. You can check him out right there. J.M. Mannion knows all about the lighting. He's always up there checking the light and letting us know, what's up, basically, because every stage, every venue is a little bit different. So, you got to take that into consideration. And before we go to the 212s, because I know we got to jump, this is not going to be a show where we're going to dabble into everything. I want to mention Brad Rowe was in crazy shape, like super shredded hard. I never saw Dorian in his prime, but when Wade came out, it totally felt very Dorian-ish. He kind of looks like him a little bit, and the crowd went nuts for this guy. Rafael Brandel from Brazil. He's a liquid summary assassin. I've never met him before. I do know his girlfriend, because his girlfriend's a big wellness girl, so I know her. He came in absolutely diced. I know he wasn't really happy. It's his first time in New York doing this. What can I tell you? But the guy was hard. He was big. He was full. I guess you got to do more shows in the States for people to get to know you better. And, you got to speak the language, all those sorts of things. But I didn't want to like leave those guys out, because it was really impressive. So for the 212s, the one and only Sean Clarita wins the show year after year after year, no matter where Sean goes, because he's been in Puerto Rico, he's been in Alaska, he's been all over the world. Sean wins this show, his show in his hometown.
I tell you what, Sean Clarita is one of those guys, and I'll be the first one to admit I was in the same boat as a lot of people. Guy turns pro in 2012 as a bantamweight at the Nationals. And congratulations, you got your pro card. There's Sean turning pro in 2012 as a bantamweight. When you turn pro as a bantamweight, the expectations for you as far as success in the IFBB, they're low. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. 212 pounds on a frame is a lot when you have guys that are 5'4", 5'5", 5'6". And with Sean, being closer to, maybe 5'1", maybe give or take a little bit, and only being on stage around 165 pounds now, even lighter earlier in his career, I think everybody pretty much wrote him off as far as being able to have any success. Again, another shot of Sean from winning his pro card at Nationals in 2012. And when I started,
I was at those Nationals, and when Sean came out, the one we're seeing right now on screen, everybody gasped. Everybody seemed like this is like a mini Ronnie Coleman. I remember to this day, he was on that day unbeatable.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting, and we've talked about this, and I've actually talked to Sean. We were kind of BSing earlier on today on my Instagram live feed, and I was saying to him, he reminds me a lot of a Marvin Ward, where when Sean stands on stage by himself, regardless of whether we're talking 2012 Sean or 2018 Sean, he's got an incredibly impressive physique. And if you put him in a picture and had no frame of reference that he was as tall as he is or weighed as much as he is, you would say, here's a great bodybuilder who can do some real damage in the sport. But again, giving up as much size as he has, people kept expectations low. And here we are, 6 years later, a lot of top 10 finishes, a handful of top 5 finishes, a couple of pro wins, and you have Sean Clarida, New York Pro Champion. So it was a hard fought battle, though. That I will say. It was close between him and Zane Watson, I felt. Zane, my understanding is that Zane really had to pull back to make 212. He's a little bit of a taller guy for the class. He's got good width, incredible conditioning. I've seen Zane compete a handful of times, and his conditioning is his trademark. Vascular, just grainy, dry. So Zane is a really, really impressive athlete, and he's a guy that you're going to see continue to get better in that 212 division. And, there were some questions as far as, should Sean be beating guys like Ahmad and Zane Watson, given the amount of size he's giving up. And the thing is, there's so many components to judging a bodybuilding competition, and obviously sheer mass is a big part of that. Look, it's bodybuilding. You're trying to build the body. But the thing with Sean is it's just a combination. It's a combination of how much mass he has on his frame. It's a combination of structure. It's a combination of conditioning. And when you put all of those things together for Sean, that's what's winning him shows. Sean minus 15 pounds of muscle, he's not winning shows. Sean with maybe a few more flaws in his symmetry, he's not winning shows. Sean comes in off or out of shape, he's not winning shows. But when Sean puts everything together like he seems to do year in and year out, he's capable of winning these shows. We see him next to Zane Watson here. Structurally and pound for pound, he's probably put together a little bit better than Zane. Obviously, he's getting outsized and out-heighted from a width and a height standpoint. But we're still judging bodybuilders at the end of the day, and it was a very well-deserved win for Sean. And Zane Watson taking second place at a show as big as the New York Pro, I think that was good for him. Saw a little bit of a newcomer coming in Ahmed El Sadani, and in finishing in third place, and then in fourth place, Mahmoud Al Dura, another guy who we really haven't seen around the 212 scene very much, coming in looking good, rounding out the top 5. We had Ahmad. And we've seen Ahmad at a lot of shows, and he's a really consistent competitor, a little bit top heavy, but his conditioning is always solid and relatively good aesthetics for somebody who is a little bit top heavy. So no surprises there to see Ahmad in the top 10. I would have liked to have seen John Jewett a little bit tighter. And Johnny, I'd like to get your opinion on that coming up. I saw John when he won the USA's as a middleweight. I saw him as a heavyweight a year or two later. And when John won the USA's as a heavyweight, his conditioning was amongst the best I've ever seen at any show. He had his pro debut, top 5, I believe, at one of the Europas last year. And pretty high expectations for him coming into the New York Pro. And again, I wasn't there, so I can't speak from firsthand experience, but it looked like he wasn't as sharp as the John Jewett that we've seen before. How did you see it, Johnny?
Yeah, I remember I remember when those pictures came out when he won the USA's, and it was just mind-boggling, like his transformation and what he'd achieved. I remember people going crazy in the forums. Here we have him on screen with the teal bluish trunks. It appeared to me that I got the upper hand here because he actually went to tanned. And I saw him, and he looked dry. He looked freaky. He looked really tired. And then on stage, it kind of washed off. I don't think he was as hard as he was in the morning. It didn't seem, his physique didn't seem to pop as much.
Sure, sure. And that's something, I tell you what, if you haven't been to a pro show, or if you haven't even watched one live, and I guess I'm going to emphasize if you haven't been to one, it's really interesting to see people get better during prejudging and to see people fade. And when you talk to people outside of the sport or people who don't have a lot of experience actually attending competitions, it's one of those things that sounds like it might just kind of be hogwash, like, oh, he was getting better as he was posing or he was getting worse on stage. And we see that. We see guys, get put through, 2-3 rounds of mandatories, and some guys just start popping and get really full, and some guys start fading. And look, any meathead that's gone to the gym and done a few curls and got a pump knows that sometimes you start flexing, stuff starts happening, and sometimes if if you're short on carbs or sleep or fats or whatever it may be, dehydrated, sometimes all that flexing has an adverse effect on how your physique looks. And John just didn't. Again, he just didn't look like he popped in the fashion we've seen him before. Really hardworking guy. I'm sure he's going to go back to the drawing board and do what he needs to do. But that's the thing is when you, as a competitor, and we've seen this with guys like Dexter Jackson or anybody who shows up very, very shredded on a consistent basis, you kind of get judged against previous versions of yourself. Now, I know in the sport of bodybuilding, it's always supposed to be you're judged on how you look that day against how the other competitors look that day. But the thing is, when you're on stage and you're in front of a panel of judges who have seen you before and they've seen you just shredded to the bone, and you come out and you're not as such this time around, the first thing they're going to think is, well, he's off. Now, again, they have to compare you to the other competitors that are there that day, but it's only natural to look at somebody that you've seen just dominate a class like John did at the USA's in those heavyweights, and when you see them come out and they're a little bit off their best, I think that plays into that as well. I'd like to see John come back and really nail it, and I think he's a guy that can be winning shows in that 212 division. A couple of I don't want to say disappointments or letdowns because I know these guys are working hard. Silvio Samuel, 10th place, wasn't looking really strong. We saw Aaron Clark come back after making an attempt in competing in the Open in Indiana, come back down to 212. Aaron was outside of the top 15. A guy that I thought could do pretty well when he turned pro, David Robinson, also outside of the top 15. But again, the lineup for these 212 guys, especially this first call out that we're looking at here, another great showing in New York, and it was a fun one to watch.
Yeah, Chris Hayton took these pictures for NPCNEWSONLINE, and he'll tell you himself that the idea of doing this, it's hard. It's trying to capture all these moments in person and then on camera, it's hard. But Sean Clarida, I want to say he kind of looks like, I don't know, 4 or 5 pounds bigger, but in reality it's still kind of the same Sean, and I guess that consistency brought it up this time, because I'm one of the persons that I know Zane Watson looked incredibly big next to him, but you gotta take it for what it is, and Sean won it here. Moving on into the classic physique.
Classic physique division. This was an interesting one.
What is classic physique? What is classic physique? Oh my God!
Everybody's freaking out.
I'll come out right off the bat and say everybody was all pissed off. It's half and half. People were mad because Regan didn't look like a classic bodybuilder. He looked like a Jay Cutler type of bodybuilder, and the other half, his fans and people loved him for what he looked like, and they were happy for him. But there's this stigma right now, at least in that arena, that it wasn't even fair comparing like the other guys next to him because he didn't look classic at all. What say you?
I say fair doesn't count for anything, man. Regan fits the height in the weight classes. Now, I was looking him up a little earlier. I believe Regan's right around 5'11", 5'10", 5'11". So he can come out at about 210 pounds. Now, when we're looking at this picture, what's not classic about this physique? He's hitting a vacuum in a front double bicep. His waist is tiny. His quad sweep is huge. His hairline, I mean, come on, guys. That should deserve some points. But I'm looking at this picture of him hitting this bicep shot, and I'm thinking, what's not classic? Look, they set the weight limits. And yeah, you're not going to get a Ramy or a Rulli showing up in classic weighing 260 at 5'7". But if Regan fits the height and the weight classes, it sure as hell isn't his fault that the other guys just aren't walking around as muscular as him. And maybe Regan is just the next evolving, I don't even know what the word is, the next step of evolution in this classic physique division. And with a waist like that and structure like that, I don't see what the issue is. Yeah, his back shot, when you're looking at it, is definitely meatier than some of the other guys. But I thought it was a great show for Regan. There was a lot of discussions when he went out to Oxygen Gym later on last year. How big was he going to get? He didn't spend a lot of time out there before he came back. Now, there was all kind of speculation as opposed to whether he just didn't want to get that big or he wanted to switch to classic. And from what it looked like, he was going to go back to bodybuilding. He just needed a break from the gym out in Kuwait. And it was kind of a last-minute thing, from what I understand, to drop the classic physique. Here we see him hitting a most muscular, not a pose you can do during prejudging when they ask for one of your favorite classic pose, but definitely something anybody can hit in their individual posing routine at night. And Regan hit it well, and he looked well. So it is. I don't agree with it. I understand where guys are coming from when they're saying he's too big or he's not classic, but define classic to me. Give me the terms on which you say classic: small waist, quad sweep, good, broad shoulders, just an overall classic look. And then tell me that Regan Grimes doesn't fit that look. I don't think you can. I don't think you can make that argument. Sure, you can say he was bigger than everybody else, but I don't think you can say Regan isn't classic physique. Now, the true test will be when we see him on stage later this year, either against other competitors or at the Olympia, which we'll know we'll be seeing him on stage in September. He's going to have to go up against guys like Bumstead, Breon Ansley, Danny Haster, Arash Rabar, Terrence Ruffin, and a handful of other really accomplished classic physique competitors. And I'll tell you what, Regan looked really good. He's going to have to be a little bit tighter at the Olympia. He's obviously going to outmass a Breon Ansley or an Arash Rabar, but as is at New York right there, I don't think his conditioning was quite on that level. So he's got some progress he needs to make. But as far as the guys who are upset that Regan won the classic physique division, tell me why. Define classic. Lay out the parameters. What defines classic? Small waist, big quads, good V-taper, an epic hairline. I don't know. Tell me what defines classic.
Yeah,
Tell me how he doesn't fit that definition. Tell me how he doesn't fit the definition of classic physique. I think he's phenomenal. I think this was a great move for him. Go ahead.
I think the hairline is the winning factor here. Here we see Regan.
Canadian kids in their hairlines.
Oh man, I've always wanted between him and Bumstead and Bumstead's sister, and they're like the Canadian sensations, man. And you know what's crazy that we saw people. I mean, I saw people. I'm talking as if you were there. But I saw people making a line to talk to Chris Aceto and ask him, like, bluntly, is this true? Is he really going to do classic physique? Because people thought it was a joke. People thought it was like a mock-up for people to, like, get all rattled up. But, yeah, he eventually did go to the classic physique division, and he won this show. So congrats to him. Other than that, we got...
Speaking of jokes and Aceto, Sergio pulled a pretty good prank on everybody on Instagram.
Oh, it was awesome.
Facebook.
If you
guys follow Sergio Oliva Jr., he made some posts saying he was going to jump into the New York Pro last minute. He was posting some last minute pictures from last year. And he was stringing people along pretty good. And Aceto wasn't really jumping in and saying that it wasn't happening. So he must have known that,
awesome. It was,
that Sergio was...
I actually went up to him and congratulate him. I actually went up to him and said, you know, this is the best thing you've ever done in your career. You have no idea how many people are rattled up right now just because you said that at the very, very last minute. Speaking of which, I don't know, this is kind of off topic, but I gotta say it. Sergio posted those pictures, and I guess a couple hours later, Kai Green posted a picture, and he says, walking around like this, like, don't let the hoodie like fool you. What do you think about Kai just walking around shredded like this? He could have jumped into the show, for God's sakes.
You know, everybody's there's so much variance as far as people's metabolisms or the off-season condition that they just feel like keeping in. You know, most of these guys know what they have to do to stay really lean all year round. Some of them just don't want to because that's not their lifestyle. Some of them make a point to do it. Obviously, Kai is all over the place, making tons of guest appearances, involved in a lot of different stuff. So Kai staying lean is part of him being a business person right now, more than I think it's part of him being a bodybuilder. So yeah, anybody who's run into Kai recently at any of his events, or if you follow him on social media, he looks like he's always about 4 to 6 weeks out from a competition, if that. And again, I think that's just a matter of the business direction that Kai's headed in right now, and knowing that part of how impressive he is the level of conditioning he's able to carry around. And it's always cool to see just a really huge dude, but if a really bloated giant Kai isn't gonna get as much attention or wow the fans in the same regard as he is when he's or as he does rather when he's shredded. So yeah, but you know what else, Johnny? I would like to, I would like to cover some of the other winners that we saw here this weekend in New York. Obviously,
Maria Diaz won the figure division finally. She's been doing the show forever, and she wins the show on a very, very close call against Jessica Reyes Padilla from Puerto Rico, and it was one of those. It was those apples and oranges, I guess.
We see that all the time in figure. Yeah, guys, we're going to stick to bodybuilding for the most part in this, but at a show like New York, we definitely want to give credit to the winners. We had your bikini winner, Romina Basualdo, walking away once again with that first place in the bikini division. And then talked about men's physique, we talked about classic physique and men's physique, or 212. We had Raymond Edwards. Here we see Romina Basualdo, your bikini winner.
Romina, which I will go on record. And say she did not look her best at all. Because I know her since her beginnings, and I'm not knocking her off. I'm just saying that when she's on, she's really on. She's the third best bikini girl in the world. On this show, she wasn't really on, and she jumped in at the last minute. So that tells you something. So when you go to the Olympia this year, you gotta be careful. Girls gotta watch out for her. And yes. Raymond Edwards won from
Raymond
Edmonds. I call them like the NWO of men's physique, because they're both together. Him and Andre, they just they call the shots. So it's pretty cool to see these guys winning. But they're like the NWO.
Yeah, so another great year in New York. So some great bodybuilding, some highs, some lows, just about everything in between. Emerging of Regan Grimes as a classic physique star. Sean Clarita finally getting a win on a really big stage. So it was a good weekend. But we also had another big event going on the same weekend down in South Carolina. Not going to talk too much about it, but there was the NPC Junior USAs. So a lot of pro cards given out in bikini, in figure, and men's physique. But we are going to talk about your bodybuilding overall winner, none other than son of legendary IFBB competitor Lee Labrada, your super heavyweight Hunter Labrada. Now, we didn't have a really big lineup of bodybuilders at the Junior USAs, but Hunter came out. He was very impressive. A lot of the pictures leading into the show, he definitely seemed as if he was going to be the front runner, and he was. Won the super heavyweight class, won the overall class. He's a good bodybuilder. He's got good mass. He's got good lines, a big set of wheels. I think when he won his show last year, I believe he competed, I want to say one of the Europas again, the NPC portion. I think he was just a little bit sharper. I don't know what Hunter all has on all the agenda for this year, so maybe he wasn't quite putting the pedal down to the floor. But some of these shots, this most muscular here for a young kid, that's a really impressive shot, and that's a shot that probably could have stood with a few guys in New York. So a great show down in South Carolina again. Congratulations, Trey Bennett, and everybody else down at the Junior USAs. But definitely a big congratulations to your super heavyweight and overall winner, Hunter Labrada. Try to catch up with him. We'll see what he's got going on next. I'm guessing maybe the USAs or some sort of national level show, because I think he's about ready to start knocking on the door of getting one of those pro cards. And so I'm excited to see him later on this year. So hopefully we'll have another chance to check him out on stage before 2018 is over. So upcoming.
Yeah, for a show that we're talking about, like the New York and then the USAs, because as much as I see Hunter, he does look like Lee. I mean, you can't really unsee it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. People talk about Nathan, and this is how Levroni used to look, and this is how Dorian used to look. But when you have Sergio and his dad, when you have like Hunter, at first I was watching the pictures, and then he was doing those shots and everything. It's kind of like weird. It's a break in the fourth wall right there. It's like you don't know what you're watching. It's like deja vu all over again.
Yeah, Hunter's got some big shoes to fill, his dad Lee isn't one of those guys that I've had the chance to spend too much time with, but in the interactions that I have had with Lee Labrada, he's couldn't be more of a gentleman, and just seems like the kind of guy who's really encouraging of his son's ventures, but realizes that Hunter's his own person and he doesn't have to be Lee Labrada 2.0. That would be a lot of pressure. We don't see a whole lot of father-son, IFBB professionals. It's just not the nature of thing with all the variables that come into play in trying to earn a pro card. So it's definitely cool seeing Hunter up there, and he should be in a good spot. But got to talk about what we have coming up this next weekend, and that is the Cal Pro. Now I'm telling you what. It's a stacked lineup. I mean, there are some really good competitors. I'm really excited about this show. We've got 24 guys on the list right now. And for an IFBB Open show, 24 is a big number. And it just goes, I tell you what, I get so tired of the garbage. And I get why guys have, some reasons to piss and moan. I get so tired of, bodybuilding's dead and this and this. We got this Cal Pro coming up. 24 guys signed up. Some of the names that jump out at me for this Cal Pro, you guys can see the list on that screen. Lionel Bayecki, again, Lionel's he wasn't 2 weeks out from a show in New York, or 1 week out. So there's no way Lionel's going to be in shape for California. Lionel wasn't 5 or 6 weeks out. But again, a show like this, he should be a front runner. Rafael Brandao. The finisher that we saw, cracking up inside that top 6 spot at the New York Pro last week. Raphael's going to be there. We have Nathan DeAsha, your winner from New York, a late entry. Fan favorite, Dusty Hanshaw. Dusty's been on the grind. We know he's going to be up there battling it out. Kevin Jordan is on this list. Kevin looking bigger than ever. My man On Win. Like this untapped potential. I hope we can see On really bring it together. But then some really guys out of nowhere. Essa Obiad is going to be there. Manuel Romero, a little bit behind in New York. I don't know if he can catch up. Brett Rowe is going to be there. Milan Sadiq is going to be there. Luke Sandow Britain's next big thing, along with Nathan, is going to be there, and Josh Wade, fourth place finisher, and Gerald Williams, who we saw take a couple of IFBB wins last year. So this Cal Pro has a really stacked lineup, and I'm really excited to see the turnout. Johnny, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Give me your first call out from next week's Cal Pro. Take a look down the list. Who you got in the first call?
I looked at the list, and I tried to do it, but the only thing I can think about it, watching this list is I want a first call out with Nathan DeAsha and then Kevin Jordan next to him, so they can trash talk each other up like it's wrestling all over again.
You might see that. If I have to go, all right, you're kind of defaulting to Kevin Jordan and Nathan. So here's when I look down this list, I'm gonna go with Nathan.
I'll do you one better.
Right, go.
I'm gonna write them down. Okay, so I'm gonna take the first call out. Should be let me see. All right, Nathan DeAsha right there. We got him on the list. We got Kevin Jordan. We got Josh Wade. We got, let's say, I'm gonna throw a dark horse in there. I'm gonna throw Sas Harari. And if it's 5, I'm gonna pick one more. I'm gonna pick the Brazilian kid.
You can go up to 6. You can go up to 6.
I'll do Rafael Brandao from Brazil and Brad Rowe. There you go.
All right. So he's got. What do we got? We got Rafael, Nathan, Sas, Kevin, Brad Rowe, and Josh Wade. All right. I am going to go with DeAsha. I'm going to go with Nathan. I'm going to agree with you on Kevin Jordan. I'm going to agree with you on Josh Wade. But I am going to go Essa Obiad and Anwen. I'm going with Anwen. He's got some of the best hair in the IFBB. I keep reverting back to that, as a bald ass dude. I still got plenty of stubble. But no, Anwen is one of those guys. He's always going to be a dark horse for me. A lot of mass, good structure, and if he nails it, which we kind of have yet to see, he can really do some damage. But no, there's a lot of other guys. When I say that first call out, I certainly don't want to be disrespectful to anybody, because you have guys like Milan Sadek, the Rafael Brandao, you have Dusty Hanshaw, Jose Raul Sanchez. Sorry, I screwed up. Luke Sandow. Luke Sandow is in my first call out. I'm gonna just add one, and whoever I just said, add one. There's no way Luke's not in my first call out unless he lost a leg or decided to load up on Twinkies between his last show and now. So Luke Sandow, right. But it's going to be a good show. Always a good production out there in Culver City, and it's going to be exciting. And I think you're right with Nathan and Kevin and Sas and Josh and Gerald Williams. Eddie Bracamontes, you have this just good crew of guys who are going to have a fun time out there competing, and it's good to see some of that camaraderie, yet rivalry coming back to the IFBB. So once again, that's next Saturday, the 26th, in Culver City. John Lindsay's California State Championships and the IFBB Pro Show along with it. So it's going to be a good weekend. We're really excited. We're going to be bringing you guys coverage of the Cal Pro and what else we got going on in bodybuilding. There's going to be weeks, guys, where we're doing this show inside out, and there's not going to be a lot of shows to cover, and so we're going to just talk about what's going on in the world of bodybuilding and fitness, keep you updated on all what's going on social media and who's gossiping this and that. But again, we're going to try to keep it lighthearted and just have some fun with you guys. So with Johnny and I think I speak on his behalf. We're excited.
When we created this network, the AFS Network, we kind of wanted a portal to be fun and be, and just be, want to say like a fan again. But since we are in the industry, we can appreciate what we have in front of us, and we can give you guys something else to watch while you're doing cardio or while you're cooking or whatever.
I tell you what, man. Go ahead. I tell you what, man, I took a
No,
lot of
go,
heat when I
go
was
ahead, go
I
ahead.
took a lot of heat when I was at MD. I took a lot of heat when I was at MD because everybody always told me the same thing. You got to stop being a fan and you got to start being a media personality, and especially when I took over as the online editor, you got to be a business person. And to be honest with you guys, I don't know how. I don't know how. I've been a fan of bodybuilding since I was like 10 years old. I fell in love with it the same way as a lot of the other guys did. Somebody around you started getting magazines of dudes looking like superheroes, and I'm still a fan of the sport. And Johnny and I want to have fun covering this sport, have fun talking bodybuilding, BSing about all the things that go along with the industry, and again, keep it lighthearted. We're going to work on bringing you guys a couple other shows. We'd like to get some creative stuff out there, maybe something that other people aren't doing. We definitely don't tend on Inside Out being our only production, but that's what we're going to start with. We'd like to work on some Q&A shows where you guys can throw out your questions and stuff like that. Johnny and I are going to be at a lot of the upcoming shows, so we're going to be able to see a lot of this stuff firsthand and kind of relate to you guys back what we see. But I don't know, Johnny, what else you got for episode 1, man?
Yeah, I think you are gonna see live shows. You're gonna see live shows on Facebook. You're gonna see live shows on YouTube. Because live shows have a different feel to it, and we can do that. We can do that. Nowadays, it's all about post production and stuff, but we can do that. And this show is being recorded live, so I think that it's gonna happen to a point that people are gonna start catching on. And I always relate like the wrestling, the sports entertainment to bodybuilding, because to be a pro wrestler, you got to start out as a fan, and to be a bodybuilder, you got to start out as a fan as well. How many bodybuilders win a show and say, "Oh, I saw Arnold, I saw this, I saw that," and that's kind of what's missing. It's one of those things that it's not really there anymore. So between David and I, that's what we do. We watch movies, we talk about it. We're gonna create some more stuff. For like real sports as well. But it's a good segue. Sometimes it's a good segue just to free your mind and just talk about something else, not just diet and exercise. But we do like this hobby we call sport. We do like it. We do love it. And on that note, I'm gonna talk about real quick about people that, I don't know, they drink orange juice as part of their diet, something like that. I read online.
I knew you were gonna go with that. Oh God. Okay. So I know some of you guys follow me on Instagram and Facebook. No, I got in a discussion with somebody, and they were talking about their diet and stuff like that, and going over what they were eating, and it was kind of just this discussion about how healthy the diet was, but they're trying to lose weight, and the weight's not coming off. And you start going over what they're consuming. Oh, well, egg whites with whole grain toast, and a big glass or two of orange juice. And I'm like, holy shit. What's wrong with that?
8 ounces. It's 8 ounces. I've seen it. I have seen it all over the world. All these nutritionists are talking about, all right, you just have 8 ounces. If you weigh it, if you have 8 ounces of juice Tropicana or whatever, now I think they have one that's like 50% like low in sugar. It absolutely works. You'll see wonders.
All right. That's okay. So here's the thing, and this is where I call a little bit of heat. Okay, look, if you're trying to lose weight, and I preface this on my Facebook post, because I knew people were going to come in and say stuff in the context of weight loss. Okay, if you're trying to watch your calories because you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to lose body fat, and you're trying to eat healthy. Okay, limit sugar intakes, limit intake of processed foods, limit garbage and fat. Orange juice isn't good for you. It's just a lot of sugar. And what I was saying is having a big glass of orange juice, as far as your body is concerned, processing sugar, insulin spikes, storing fat, all that good stuff. Your body doesn't know the difference between a big glass of juice and a big glass of Mountain Dew when it comes to weight loss and calories. Now, in no way, shape, or form am I ever going to argue that a diet or that a can of Mountain Dew is healthier than an orange juice. And of course people had to call, what, you're saying I should have Mountain Dew instead of orange juice? My friends were jumping in, that's why I drink Code Red instead of regular Mountain Dew. But no, guys, use a little bit of common sense, okay? If, let's say,
somebody asked me about if it fits your macros. Well, what about if it fits your macros? Okay, if your macro goal for the day is 150 grams of carbs, and you have 150 grams of carbs from orange juice or 150 grams of carbs from straight Mountain Dew, of course the orange juice is going to be the better option if that is your choice for carbs. You have vitamin C, you're going to have maybe some fiber if it's pulpy. Oh, Jesus Christ, really? You're pulling up a picture of orange juice. Anyhow, guys, I don't hate orange juice. I drink orange juice with my breakfast. I love orange juice, but not when I'm trying to lose weight. So if you're trying to achieve a caloric deficit and trying to do so by reducing your sugar intake, all I'm saying is maybe not slamming 2 big glasses of orange juice for breakfast, because it's a lot of sugar and it's just like having Mountain Dew. And that's it. I don't hate it. I love orange juice. If I'm gonna have pancakes or eggs or steak and eggs, which I can't have too much of right now because I'm dieting myself, I have orange juice. So thanks for bringing that up, Johnny. Great talk. Good.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And we kept it, there we go, 1 hour with David Baye, part of the Cobra Kai team. If you didn't see that on the lower third right there. We saw a series, Karate Kid. You guys better check it out. We're 80s kids, so we know how to do stuff.
I could talk a whole nother episode on that, man. We'll have to do one. Where it's like Inside Out reviews, YouTube Rebs, new series, the Cobra Kai series. I'm not going to get into it.
Absolutely.
I'll talk for 2 hours. But if you guys haven't watched it, get your month free trial of YouTube Reb and watch the Cobra Kai series, because it is for as cheesy as you might think it is, being a follow-up to the original Karate Kid movie. There's actually a lot of substance. It's a really good show. That's where I'm going to stop, because otherwise I'm going to go off into this deep tangent, and the show's going to run another hour. We're going to cut it off here for episode 1 of Inside Out.
Yes, we're going to cut it up here. We're big John Club Van Damme fans. We are all in. Absolutely. For the one and only David Baye, I am Johnny Styles. This has been Inside Out for the very first time. Keep it locked here to the AFS Network. Subscribe, and, David has his own social media on Instagram. I have my own at Johnny_Styles. I won't say David's one because it's been on screen every single time.
One other thing, guys. Big shout out. Johnny said it earlier. Big shout out to NPC News Online. We like bringing you guys pictures, and we like being able to have some stuff referenced. Johnny and I are at the shows, taking all the pictures. So again, a big shout out to NPC News Online. Full gallery, obviously you guys already know. Full galleries all the show. New York full galleries, Junior USA full galleries. They'll have full galleries at the Cal Pro, but again, just wanted to give a big shout out to them. We want to bring you guys a show where we can pop in pictures and video of everything we're talking about, and those guys are making it happen for us. So big shout out to JM and Frank, everybody at NPC News Online for the courtesy. I'm done.
He is done.
It,
and yes,
that's it.
The NPC. Yeah, I'm gonna mute his mic right now. He's not gonna talk anymore for the NPC News site. I still did videos for JM and an NPC from Colombia, and those videos are still not up because they have so much content and so much pictures and videos from the show. So log on NPC News Online, and remember, the only way for you to go to the Olympia is through the NPC. So I'm going to finish it off. David is only muted right now. So for David Baye, this has been Johnny Styles, and we are